So I think we now know why the Buffy reboot was cancelled. The pilot script has been leaked online. People have read it. The dialogue is awful. None of the characters feel three-dimensional. The script is just poor. It's very low energy. There's none of the clever Whedon wit in there. Obviously, it wasn't written by Joss Whedon. The script was written by Nora and Lila Zuckerman. You know what? It feels like really bland fan fiction. There's also a little bit of swearing in there. And I think, so many franchises that used to avoid swearing have now embraced it. It reminds me of Star Trek TV shows. Mild swearing used to only happen in some of the Star Trek films, but now swearing is like common on Star Trek TV shows since Discovery. Well, there's a little bit of swearing in the pilot. There's also references to feminism and solidarity, things like this, right? Buzzwords that you really want to avoid at this stage because people are tired of that stuff. Buffy Summers only shows up at the end in the very last scene, and I think she just has one line of dialogue. It's a surprise cameo, and she's working in a corporate office job, going by the name Anne, and she's not a Slayer anymore. I guess she's retired. Who wants to see that? I mean, what fan would want that to be the way Buffy appears in this pilot? Anyway, the show is called Buffy New Sunnydale. Now, in the pilot, in the script, they talk about the myth of Buffy. A lot of people think that she didn't exist. Like she was some sort of, urban legend or whatever, right? So she's mentioned a lot, this vampire slayer. And some characters don't believe in vampires and this sort of thing. So presumably she was going to be making a proper appearance in the next episode, which of course was never shot. Only the pilot was shot. I think that approach was the wrong one. I think if they were going to do this, Buffy should have been front and center. She should have had a bigger role in the pilot rather than being relegated to this very small cameo. So yeah, I guess Buffy was going to have to come out of retirement in the next episode or so. The episode focuses entirely on the new cast in this new Sunnydale, primarily on the main lead character, Nova. She's the new Slayer, Nova. And that's it. It doesn't feel like Buffy. You might want to have a lot more Buffy in your Buffy. This whole approach would have been very disappointing to fans because they would have been sitting through this entire pilot watching all these other characters going, I don't know who any of these people are. I don't care about any of them. I tuned in to watch Buffy on this new Buffy show, and where is Buffy? When is Buffy going to show up? And then she's right at the end in a cameo. I mean, really? I don't know why anyone thought that was a good idea. And it's funny because it feels quite familiar, doesn't it? In a way, it's sort of like what they did with Captain Picard in Star Trek Picard. He's this sort of disgraced admiral who lost his faith in the Federation, and he's living in his vineyard back in France. Or it's like what they did with Luke Skywalker. He's also lost faith. He's disillusioned with the Force and with the Jedi, and now he's living on an island somewhere, in the middle of nowhere as a hermit. The hero from the original franchise, and they're now world weary and cynical, and they're not where they should be. And it feels like a trope. It's just so lazy. Buffy is just living in this sterile corporate life in an office somewhere, not being a Slayer, not happy, not being her best self, right? And again, it's just, it's almost cliched at this point. So this article is from cosmicbooknews.com. This article is linked below if you want to read it in full. Buffy Reboot cancelled because it was likely too woke. A page from Buffy New Sunnydale, shared by Robert Meyer Burnett on X, is making the rounds online, and one line in particular stands out. It says, "Trying to weaponize my feminism against me." The script points to the problem. The reported exchange reads, "Stacy, you could have at least defended me. Chris, I don't want to take away your agency, babe. You hate it when I dim your light." God. "Stacy, that is so you, trying to weaponize my feminism against me. I'm going home." If that page is indeed representative of the pilot, then it is not hard to see why Disney and Hulu may have decided this was not the right direction for Buffy. It also didn't work out for The Bride. Yeah, look, pilot episodes get rejected on a regular basis. The pilot is, your first test episode for a studio to decide if they want to greenlight a full series. And the pilot is the showcase. And if it doesn't work out, they're not going to move forward with it. That's how TV works. It's how TV has worked for a long time. And the TV landscape is changing, at least a little bit these days. This pilot feels like it was something that may have gotten the green light on the CW a few years back. But I think studios are possibly learning that this kind of, I would call it, mediocrity is just not going to cut it anymore with audiences. I don't think the fan base would have responded very favorably to this. Now, Disney owns the rights to Buffy, and Disney owns Hulu, and I don't think they want what could potentially be another acolyte on their hands. Paramount kind of has their own acolyte situation right now with Star Trek Starfleet Academy, so big studios are going to have to be extra conservative and cautious with what they greenlight, and I think the rule of thumb should be, if in doubt, don't. It says, update 2, speaking with people, Sarah Michelle Gellar blames an executive. "We had an executive on our show who was not only not a fan of the original, but was proud to constantly remind us that he had never seen the entirety of the series and how it wasn't for him. That's very hard when you're taking a property that is as beloved as Buffy, not just to the world, but to me and Chloe. So that tells you the uphill battle that we had been fighting since day one, when your executive is literally proud to tell you that he didn't watch it." Look, I don't know for sure if that leaked script is the final shooting draft. But if it's anything to go by, I suspect the end product of that final pilot episode was probably just unwatchable. Disney's changing climate adds to it. The timing also matters. The Buffy Reboot news comes as Disney has been backing away from some of its DEI practices, which Trump just highlighted in a post on Truth Social. Disney ends key DEI practices is listed as one of Trump's reforms. The shift has no doubt changed the wider conversation around which projects are getting supported and which are no longer seen as worth the trouble. So when a Buffy pilot surfaces with woke feminist buzzword dialogue and then gets cancelled, it is easy to connect the dots. Yeah, that's a theory. That's a theory. It could very well be a factor, but without actually seeing the end product of the final pilot, it's kind of, we're just speculating, really. But yeah, even a relatively average script can be turned into something kind of watchable if it's well directed and if the performances are good. We don't know if there's any other variables in there that could have resulted in the studio not greenlighting this. I mean, were there other elements of the production that weren't gelling? Certainly, I think this story was just a bad script from the beginning by not having Buffy front and center. But again, as we've talked about, I don't think you can make Buffy the Vampire Slayer without Joss Whedon's involvement. So to me, yeah, this was not a good idea to bring Buffy back. And to be quite honest, I think Buffy the Vampire Slayer was a show of a particular era. Late 90s, early 2000s. I think it spoke to a particular generation. And I think it had its day. And I don't think you're going to improve on the original. But anyway, yeah, I think it was the right decision to not greenlight this series. That's what I think, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell to be notified of future updates. Hit the like button. Share the video out there. Take care. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.